Another guest tonight, and another person who is absolutely one of my dearest friends in the whole world, and an exceptionally talented writer. One of those people, one of those quiet types you wouldn't think about, you know, until something pops up on her blog site and you go, oh my God, that's fantastic. Donna Pelkie is from Joliet. She is a former journalist and current blogger. She is also the mom of a new teen driver. So if you see the look of terror in her face, that's what it is. And she is one of my all-time favorite coffee aficionados in the entire world. Tammy, I need the biggest tub of coffee you've got for Mrs. Pelkie, please. Tonight she's going to be reading a piece called The Non-Traditional Path to Motherhood. Donna Pelkie.
Thank you, Tom, for inviting me. I've been a writer for 25 plus years. I have never read any of my stuff in front of an audience before, so this is a totally new experience for me. And I gave you the wrong title, sorry. A Long and Winding Road to Motherhood. I wrote this about 2 years ago for Mother's Day, and it was on my blog.
Well, that's not nearly as good. Hold on a second.
Why do I like you? I didn't come to motherhood in the traditional way. For me, the journey began on the other side of the world when my husband Chuck and I were entrusted with the care of a 13-month-old little girl. We had walked a long, hard path to that moment, struggling with infertility, deciding to adopt, and then waiting a torturous amount of time to be matched with a baby. It all culminated in this moment in Nanjing, China. Still struggling with jet lag and a disbelief that we were finally going to be parents, we waited patiently in our hotel room for our daughter to be brought to us. And then it happened, just like that. The officials came in with our baby, words were exchanged through a translator, and they placed a beautiful girl wearing pink footy pajamas in my arms. It was overwhelming. So much so, I have trouble remembering the moment clearly. I'm pretty sure, however, I whispered to her, "I'm going to be your mom." And as they say, life was never the same. Those first hours and days of motherhood were an adventure unto themselves. You see, despite my desire to be a mother, I knew nothing about taking care of a baby. I didn't have siblings. I'd never babysat anyone, ever. I'd never fed a baby or changed a diaper. I was beyond clueless. Before leaving on this trip of a lifetime, my mother gave me the most basic and practical of advice. Keep her fed and dry, and you'll figure out the rest as you go. After I held our new daughter for a few minutes, Chuck took his turn and then decided to gently stand her on the ground. Now mind you, we had been told that very morning she could merely pull herself up and stand while holding on to something. He eased her hands out of his and she took off, running. Parenting surprise number one, she was mobile and fast. After chasing her down for the first of many times during our trip, Chuck left with the other dads in our traveling group to fill out more of the ubiquitous paperwork needed to finalize our adoption. I stayed behind with the other moms and babies. The hotel rooms were so tiny, so we congregated in the hallway to allow the babies to play together and to provide us with much needed moral support. After sitting there for a while in a daze, I remembered my mom's advice. Keep her fed and dry. I had no idea how to do either. Several of the other moms in our group already had children at home. I will be forever grateful to them for showing me which way a diaper goes on and how to make a baby bottle and baby cereal, which was all we had to feed them at the moment. I was at the point of such emotional overload, I wasn't a bit embarrassed to ask, even though I probably should have been, and they happily and patiently helped me. When the dads returned from doing paperwork, I was feeling pretty proud of myself. I'd changed my daughter's diaper, I'd fed her, I'd played with her, I'd made her laugh. So far, so good. All of the families retired to their rooms for the night. It was late, and the three of us were alone for the very first time. I stood there holding the baby, and Chuck asked, "Are you going to get her to sleep?" That did it. Suddenly, the enormity of it all came crashing in on me. Not just that day's events, but everything we had been through to get there. The disappointments, the embarrassing fertility tests, surgery, hormones, a lengthy adoption process of interviews, and home studies and prying into every facet of our lives, including our jobs, our finances, our health. I looked at Chuck and said, "But I don't know how!" And I began to sob uncontrollably. My poor husband. Even in my emotionally charged state, I could see the panic flash across his face. "No, no, 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 no," he said, taking our daughter from me. "Not in front of the baby." He looked as if he might cry too. I ran to the bathroom, locked myself in, and cried my eyes out for quite some time. Chuck walked the halls of the hotel with our baby girl, singing to her until she fell asleep. When I emerged from my crying jag, our new daughter was sleeping peacefully, no thanks to me. It was time to call our family to let them know we had a baby. Under normal circumstances, I would be the one to make such a momentous call to my mother, but Chuck wisely decided he should do it. Ever perceptive, my mother completely understood when he told her, "Donna doesn't think she can talk to you right now." They both knew, as did I, if I got on the phone, I would have another meltdown, and I would tell my mom, "I can't do this. You must get on a plane now and come to China and help me." That was the first day. We had 12 more to go before we could fly home. It was time to figure the rest out. Not an easy thing when you're living out of a hotel room, 13 time zones away from your family and friends in a country where you don't speak the language. As we traveled from Nanjing to Shanghai to Guangzhou, processing the paperwork required by both the Chinese and United States governments, we began to learn about this little person who had become our daughter. It may have taken us a long time to become parents, but once we did, we hit the ground running. We had skipped right past the newborn and infant stages and plunged into the toddler stage. By the time we boarded a plane in Hong Kong for the 14-hour trip home, not only had I learned how to change diapers, but I had done so on buses and planes, as well as in airports, public bathrooms, and government offices. I learned how fast tiny 13-month-old legs can run. I learned how to feed a 1-year-old with a voracious appetite on jars of baby food, restaurant food, and hotel room service. I learned the universal appeal of Cheerios as a distraction for a fussy child. It was both the longest and shortest 2 weeks of my life, and also the most intense. I took a photo of Chuck and the other parents we traveled with sitting at the gate waiting to board the plane to Chicago. To a person, they are staring zombie-like, waiting for that last leg home. Emotionally and physically drained, I think we all truly were traveling on a wing and a prayer. One thing I hadn't learned yet was how to amuse a toddler for 14 hours on a full flight in a cramped seat in coach. Mercifully, she slept for at least half the flight. She even slept through a turbulent landing, complete with high winds and the old woman in the seat next to us puking into her barf bag. I felt tears well up in my eyes as the plane taxied to the gate. Just like our tough landing, my path to parenthood had been rocky, but I made it. It kept her fed and dry, and I was working to figure out the rest. I was a mom. We've come a long way since then. The baby I didn't know how to get to sleep starts high school this fall. Watching her mature into a smart, witty, poised, sensitive, caring young woman is one of the great pleasures of my life. It's a pleasure I once was uncertain I would be allowed to have. At Mother's Day, I often reflect on the long and winding road that brought me here. And every Mother's Day, I am so happy and thankful I've been given the opportunity to be my daughter's mom. I wouldn't change a single thing about the journey. It was and continues to be a rewarding and challenging adventure. So to all the moms out there, no matter how your journey began, happy Mother's Day.
Yes, and now she's driving around the church parking lot with a permit, a learner's permit, terrorizing the entire neighborhood. Her poor father, who is my very best friend in the world, has this look on his face like, "Oh, dear God, give me that. Nobody told me about this." Poor Chuck.